taller. And George is heavy as we have seen him on the comeback trail, but he'd like to say a tight 260 pounds. Sean's boxing blackboard for this one.
Mike Jameson must be careful early. It's no secret that George has 43 KOs inside the first 3 rounds. Use a fast left jab. Foreman has a lot of trouble with taller, quicker men, and he has problems with boxers who show him a lot of head movement. Make him see that tonight. George Foreman must jump right on top of Jameson. Don't give Mike a chance to show his ring rust. Start early and try to end early. Focus. Foreman has a lot of big fights on the horizon. Concentrate. This right now is the most important fight of your comeback career, and speed up. Fighters like Jameson, who have suffered from the sparring partner syndrome, are usually extremely slow.
And the crowd ready to respond as Big George makes his entrance at Caesars Tahoe. Second fight in 1990. George has fought as a pro through 4 decades, turning pro in '69, fighting through the 70s, 80s, and now here in the 90s. An imposing figure. You see the glance from Mike Jameson, who said that he is honored to be in the ring with Foreman, but not in awe of him. Jameson has been in the ring with the 3 future champions in Dokes, Tubbs, and Tyson, and for the last few years has been taking the shots of Tyson in sparring, although, of course, the equipment a little different than right here. And Foreman has been very quiet, low-key on this fight. He has never had more to lose in a fight than tonight, with Rodriguez over the horizon and also Mike Tyson. Here are the introductions of the fighters.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening, scheduled for 10 rounds in the heavyweight division. Your referee is Mills Lane. Introducing the principal first in the red corner. He's wearing the blue trunks with the red and white trim. He weighed in at 233 pounds at the weigh-in this morning, fighting out of San Jose, California. He has a professional record of 17 victories and 14 defeats, 6 of those wins coming by virtue of knockout. He is Mike Jameson! And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with the red and blue trim. He tipped the scales this morning at 260 pounds. From Marshall, Texas, with a professional record of 65 victories, just 2 defeats, 61 of those wins coming via the knockout. Here he is, the former heavyweight champion of the world, the punching creature, George Foreman. 10 rounds of boxing in the heavyweight division.
Foreman, who weighed in at 253 for the Cooney fight, getting the instructions
George,
from Mills Lane.
Right here, I'm not going to call it low. If you go right here, I'm not going to call it low, all right? We've already had our instructions in the desk. Any questions here? Any questions here? Let's get it on. Come on.
And I guess only fitting at Lake Tahoe, one of the largest lakes in the world. Tonight we have George Foreman, one of the largest fighters in the world.
And George actually likes weighing 260. He likes eating, and he says that heavyweights should be naturally big. His handlers, though, are quite the opposite. They don't like him being this heavy.
Foreman said he's never been fast, never will be, so he'll try to turn big into an advantage. Now, what do we figure from Jameson? He has had the history of surviving here, immediately ties up Foreman, but he hasn't had a legitimate sanctioned fight in nearly 3 years.
Well, this is just what we expect from him. A lot of movement, a lot of hanging on early, a lot of tying up, rolling with the punches. You'll see him get hit, and he'll just pull the power away from some of those shots from Foreman. Foreman has got to pinpoint his punches in order to be effective in this fight.
Foreman comes into this fight. The betting line in this area has Foreman a 38-1 favorite. Yes, there is a line on this fight, but you may add that was somewhat of the neighborhood of Mike Tyson being a favorite over Buster Douglas.
Well, the one thing that Mike Jameson has is a good left hook. You can ask Tony Tubbs and Michael Dokes about that. He put both of them to the canvas.
The scenario, as we talked about before, George Foreman has a fight set for June against Adelson Rodriguez, who is ranked number 8 in the WBC. George, by the way, is now ranked at number 10. That same night, Mike Tyson is supposed to fight. The names talked about, Greg Page, Ronaldo Snipes. If they both win, they will then move on, sign a deal for September. Here is Jameson getting it. Jameson says, I fought Tyson. I know what it's like to take a heavy punch, and I want to say that I could also dish it out. And I'm going to be looking to try to nail George Foreman.
And look at Foreman's bullying in there, wrestling around with Mike Jameson.
So we talked about Foreman's size. Jameson at 233, and not what you'd call a well-chiseled look. Actually, when he fought Tyson 4 years ago, he weighed in at 240. And Jameson was very happy coming in at 233.
Well, you heard George Foreman's advice to Mike Tyson. He said, if I were Mike Tyson's manager, I'd tell him to take a year or two off, go on a cruise, relax, get far away from boxing. And if Mike Tyson comes back to fight George Foreman, he's not exactly going to be doing that.
Actually, you look at Jameson, outgoing guy, very gregarious, looks a little like Jerry Cooney in the size. We'll see if he reminds Foreman of Cooney in the second round. 25 seconds ago in the first, Jameson, who started his career by winning his first 10 fights, then along the line he was dropped in 2 by Frank Bruno, went the distance with Michael Dokes and Tony Tubbs. He had Tubbs down in the 10th round. That was in '87, and lost to Adelson Rodriguez. But his last fight was 3 years ago, and he goes upstairs to Foreman to end the round.
Cross defense, as George is using there, is you can get hit with a right hand over the top. Jameson landed it. Now, Jameson has got most of his power in the left hook, but if he can get the right hand working, it'll be more advantageous for him to come back with a left hook, and he'll be able to use the left hook more.
If you're scoring, we were taking a look at Jameson's record. He's been out for almost 3 years. He has not tasted victory in the ring since 1985, 5 years ago. George Foreman comes in with a mark of 65-2 with 61 knockouts. In his first career, he was 45-2 with 42 KOs. And here in the George Foreman 2, is won all 20 and 19 by knockout. The only non-knockout was the 10-round victory over Everett Bigfoot Martin. And the strong we have seen over the last 3 years. George, who was out for 10 years, came back at the age of 39, now is 42. It created a Foreman phenomenon. It's kind of a mixture of curiosity and charisma. He's a blast from the past, the nostalgia. Let's all go back in time. And the weight of 260 is certainly bigger than life, but he's a name. Sportsman is desperate for big names. He's personable, he's funny, he's a good guy. And as Mike Tyson has taken on the aura of the villain, George Foreman, you could see the reaction from the crowd. He is the hero. But as you had mentioned before, he has really choreographed this comeback. This is Mike Jameson along with Cooney, the only heavyweights he has really fought, and both of them have come off from layoffs of 2.5 years or more.
And it looks like he's going to get a Tyson fight. The fight he wins here, the fight he wins against Adelson Rodriguez, off of fighting nobody. Fighting a bunch of smaller men, like cruiserweight, pumped up like heavyweights who's doing in the heavyweight division. This is only, like you said, the second heavyweight he fought. He has done it his way.
Jameson quickly holding on, and he is really now taking some punishment to the face. Foreman with the jab. We were wondering what Foreman would be seated on. The Foreman we saw in his first 19 fights where he essentially did what he had to do, or the Foreman who came out intense against Cooney. And now Foreman is starting to wind it up here in the second round.
What George Foreman has to have is somebody to get excited about, somebody that he's a little bit fearful of, a little on the edge, like a Jerry Cooney. Right now, he's in complete control. You know, in that first round, he did not come out like he did in the Cooney fight. And finally, in the second round, he is.
It's the jab that is opening it up for George Foreman. Jameson said that he would move, stay away, but right now, he's standing right in front of Foreman. Third round action. action. It was all George Foreman in the second, and he's picking up the pace here in the third. At this point, does not look at all in danger of losing the bouts in the future with Allison Rodriguez and then the possibility of meeting up with Mike Tyson. Now Foreman in 67 fights has fought only 2 more rounds than Jameson, and all you have to do is look at the knockout ledger. Foreman's 61 KOs, of which 43 of them have come in the first 3 rounds.
And I talked about Jameson suffering from what is called sparring partner syndrome. He's so defensive that he can't get a good combination off on his opponent. He's not getting hit cleanly here in this third round, but he is getting hit. He's just doing enough to survive. He's holding on when he has to. He's moving backwards, taking the play away from those punches. Now, a sparring partner is paid, and he is paid by Tyson $2,000 a week to take punches. Sparring partners, when they rally and when they throw a lot of punches and they win the sparring session, they're fired. They're packing bags.
Well, this may be the top-paying sparring partner performance for Jameson in his career. When Foreman started his comeback, that's about the time Jameson started his retirement, and in that span of the last 3 years, there goes the mouthpiece of Jameson. Foreman has been the busiest fighter, not just in the heavyweight division, but maybe all of boxing. And now Mills Lane steps in, and here in Nevada, the mouthpiece rule, when there is a lull in the action, they could put it in, so Mills had ample time anywhere along the line as this fight is becoming a complete lull in the action.
Speaking of Mills Lane, it's interesting to see a little bitty short guy like Mills Lane, probably weighs in the welterweight class 147 pounds, into these 2 great big giant heavyweights.
And the crowd comes alive as Jameson tries a right, and now Jameson trying to open up a little more. Foreman in 87 had 5 fights, in 88 had 9 fights, in 89 had 5 more, and here in 1990, here Jameson does not know where he is right now. Instinctively covers up. There goes the mouthpiece. And timeout is called. A convenient lull in the action now for Jameson, who took a wallop, and it looks like now it's just a matter of time. Jameson trying to haul off. All of his strategy is completely out the window now. Now we will see those survival instincts of Jameson. We may see a little heated seconds before this ends.
Jameson's got to start throwing punches. You know, he only knew about this fight a week ago, and now he's showing it.
He cannot be saved by the bell unless it's the final round. Jameson now on the wobble. Lane could easily end this. Asking him some questions to let it go. We'll see if Jameson can beat the clock.
And Lane better stay close.
Jameson's a 38-1 underdog coming into this fight. What do you think the odds are that he'll make it out of this 4th round?
Well, the best thing he can do is get busy. Kick some leather in the face of Foreman. Now between rounds, Foreman is standing up in his corner, not doing the full advantage of that minute, but he's trying to get extra breath into his lungs. He's taking deep breaths over there. In comparison, Mike Jameson in his corner is sitting down, but they're not taking his mouthpiece out. He's having to breathe around that mouthpiece, which is what you do in training. There's a point. Well, that was the warning from Mills Lane, but before this fight, you see how high the trunks of Mike Jameson are. Before the fight, Mills Lane said, "I'll let you go here," and that's around the belt there at the top of the trunk.
Not to mention Foreman's also. You know, in sparring against Tyson, Jameson found that he was able to push Tyson away. He felt he could do that with Foreman, and that's just not the case. You're not going to push George at 260 pounds. And there goes the mouthpiece again. Now we're looking at a question of whether Jameson is intentionally dropping the mouthpiece to get a timeout. But Mills Lane will wait for a lull in the action. And is this it? Yes, it is. He sends Foreman to the corner.
And here Foreman is turning it up. Look at the concentration now as compared with earlier in the fight. That man better take some deep breaths and get ready, because Foreman's coming right after him. There's a cut over the left eye of Mike Jameson now.
Jameson's known to have a good chin, but Foreman has hit him everywhere but the chin. Side and the side of the face, and now Mills Lane is asking the doctor to come in and examine that cut. And if he doesn't stop it now, it's just a matter of time. James McClellan The doctor at ringside with Mike Jameson. He's asking him some questions. Jameson looks like he went 10 rounds. Foreman looks like he's been 1. And they're going to let it continue. Jameson wants to continue. He said he took this fight. He's been in there against Tyson. Felt that he was experienced what a good body shot is. And he looks at Foreman's success at his age and the scrambled heavyweight division. And just to be in there with Foreman. Now Jameson from the ropes.
And every time Jameson gets in trouble, he starts throwing punches.
And it's the jab of Foreman that is picking Jameson apart.
That is what keeps Mills Lane from stopping this fight. There he is. There it is from Mills Lane. That's all. That's enough.
Foreman wound up for that final ride. And stops it here in the 4th. And George Foreman makes it 21-0 on the comeback trail. And it's knockout number 20.
Nobody, no coming here.
66-2 with 62 knockouts. And now dealing with Mike Jameson, who might have taken more in 4 rounds with Foreman than he felt in hundreds of rounds sparring with Tyson.
But Jameson said, this is really an honor for me to fight George. Finally I get someone to fight that's older than me. But I'm the young buck now, but that man, George Foreman, showed him why he has those big hands and heavy power.
And this is where it ended, the final volley of George Foreman, who had Jameson in trouble from the 2nd round on.
And Jameson here showing his survival instinct. Pulling away. Look at him bend away from those punches. Boom, the left hook. Down he goes. That's it. Referee's Mills.